Ethan, slow down! You're going to spill it, Clara laughed, swatting my hand as I tried to pour wine into her glass. I'm celebrating, I said, grinning. We finally closed the Syntrex deal. That's 6 months of work right there, she smiled. You mean 6 months of you forgetting dinner dates and sleep? I leaned back in my chair. All worth it. Liam said once this deal lands, we're officially in the big leagues. Liam always says that, she teased. You two talk about business more than anything else. Hey, he's my business partner and my best friend. That's a double threat, she rolled her eyes. You know, sometimes I think you love him more than me. I laughed, half choking on my drink. Please don't start that rumor. The world's not ready for that headline, she giggled, brushing her hair back. Relax, I'm kidding. Her laughter filled the small apartment, our apartment. I watched her move toward the kitchen, barefoot, humming to herself. Everything about that moment felt right. Familiar, safe. Ethan, do you ever stop? She asked suddenly. Stop what? Working, thinking, planning. You're always 2 steps ahead. That's how I got here, Clara. She turned, her tone softer now. Maybe try living a little in the present, too. You already have everything, I smiled at her words. Maybe she was right. When my phone buzzed, I grabbed it without thinking. Liam! Speak of the devil, I said, answering. You still in the office? Yeah, his voice came through, tired but cheerful. Just wanted to say congrats again, man. Couldn't have done it without you. Same here, brother. We built this from scratch. Heart and Cross sounds big now, doesn't it? He chuckled. Feels good, huh? You, me, the company, the dream. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. The dream? Anyway, he added, tell Clara I said hi. And don't work tonight, okay? Take her out. She deserves a break from your laptop face, I laughed. Got it, boss. Good. Night, man. When I hung up, Clara was watching me with a small smile. Liam? She asked. Yeah. He says hi. She nodded quietly. He always does. Something about her tone caught me off guard, soft, unreadable, but I brushed it off. Clara and Liam had always been friendly. They'd met through me after all. Nothing strange about that. I stood, walked over, and pulled her close. Hey, I whispered. Thank you. For putting up with my chaos, she leaned into me. Just promise me one thing. Anything. When all this success becomes real, don't forget who you were before it, I smiled. How could I? You remind me every day. She laughed lightly, but her eyes looked far away, like her thoughts were somewhere I couldn't reach. Back then, I didn't think much of it. If I had, maybe I would have seen it coming. Maybe I would have noticed the cracks in my perfect life. Happy birthday, boss, Sophie shouted as I walked into the private lounge, balloons almost hitting my face. Boss? I laughed. Sophie, I've told you, just Ethan tonight. Not happening, she said, handing me a glass of champagne. You're turning 30. You deserve respect. An expensive alcohol, Aaron raised his drink. To Ethan Cross, the man who made us all rich enough to afford bad decisions. Everyone laughed. I grinned, pretending the warmth in my chest was happiness and not exhaustion. You're all terrible at speeches. Then Liam stepped forward, glass in hand, smile wide. Allow me to fix that. The room quieted. Even Clara turned to listen, her arm brushing mine. Liam began. I've known Ethan for 10 years. He's the reason Heart and Cross exists. He's the reason I still believe loyalty and hard work mean something. People clapped. I clinked my glass against his. Careful, Liam, you'll make me blush, he grinned. You already are, brother. Clara leaned in, whispering, you deserve every word. I smiled at her. You helped me get here. Don't give me credit, she said softly. You built your own empire. Her eyes sparkled in the dim lights. For a second, I forgot about work, deadlines, and everything else. It was just her. Music started. Maya dragged Sophie to the dance floor. Aaron joined in after a few shots, his tie already half off. Laughter echoed across the room. Liam clapped my shoulder. You happy, man? Of course, I said. Perfect night. Perfect people, he nodded. You've earned it. We should talk next week. Big proposal from the board. Work talk at my party? I smirked. You never stop, do you? He chuckled. Neither do you. As he walked away, Clara appeared beside me again. He really cares about you, she said. Liam? Yeah, he's like family, she hesitated. You trust him completely? I frowned slightly. Yeah, why? She She smiled too quickly. Just asking. You talk about him more than you talk about me. That's jealousy talking, I teased. You two get along just fine. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. Later, while cutting the cake, I caught them, Clara and Liam, standing in the corner, whispering. Her hand brushed his arm. He leaned closer. Their expressions were serious, not playful. Aaron nudged me. Hey, you good? Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. Just tired. Man, you need a vacation. Maybe after this quarter, I replied, eyes still on the corner. But they'd already moved apart like nothing happened. Clara returned, smiling sweetly. Dance with me? I hesitated, then nodded. Always. Her fingers slipped into mine, soft and familiar. I held her close under the lights, trying to forget that strange chill crawling up my spine. See? She whispered. Everything's perfect, I smiled, lying to both of us. Yeah. Perfect. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake one thought. The devil doesn't arrive with horns. He arrives wearing your best friend's smile. The smell of coffee filled the kitchen. I stood there, half awake, still hearing last night's laughter echo in my head. Clara's purse sat on the counter, her phone beside it, buzzing every few seconds. Clara, your phone's going crazy, I called out. She was in the shower. Ignore it, she shouted. Probably Sophie confirming the brunch plans. All right, I said, pouring my coffee. But then the screen lit up again. Liam. Last night was worth every risk. The mug slipped from my hand, shattering across the tiles. Coffee splashed over my shoes, but I didn't move. My pulse started pounding in my ears. I stared at the message. My mind tried to make sense of it. Work? Some joke? Maybe they were planning a surprise. But my gut knew better. My hand shook as I picked up the phone. One swipe. That's all it took. The messages filled the screen. Dates, words, hotel rooms, and pictures that made my stomach twist. Liam, I can't stop thinking about you. Clara, we shouldn't... But I don't want to stop either. My throat closed. I scrolled more, even though it hurt. Liam, he has no idea. Clara, don't say that. He trusts us. Liam, exactly. I felt something break inside me, loudly, invisibly. The shower stopped. I locked the screen just as Clara walked out, towel around her shoulders, humming softly. You okay? You look pale. Yeah, I whispered. Just spilled the coffee, she laughed, unaware. You're such a mess in the mornings. I stared at her smile, the same one that once made me believe in forever. Now it felt like a lie I'd bought too easily. I'm heading to the office, she said, tying her hair. Don't forget to eat. Sure, I said, voice steady somehow. She kissed my cheek and grabbed her purse, her phone still in my hand. You forgot this, I said, holding it out. Oh, thank you, she smiled. What would I do without you? My chest tightened. Yeah. What would you do? She didn't notice the edge in my voice. She just left, humming the same tune she'd been humming in the shower. The door clicked shut. Silence filled the apartment. I sat down on the cold floor, the broken mug pieces scattered around me. My fingers dug into my knees. My mind replayed every moment. Liam's toast, Clara's whispers, their glances, every laugh, every touch, every I love you now felt rehearsed. I tried to cry, but couldn't. I just went numb. My breath came shallow, my body frozen between rage and disbelief. The phone buzzed again. A new message. Liam, miss you already, I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that feels good, the kind that tastes like blood and broken glass. I looked around the apartment, our framed photos, the one of the three of us at the company's launch party. I was smiling in the middle with an arm around each of them. The perfect trio. I picked up the picture frame and set it face down. For a long time, I just stared at the wall. I didn't scream. I didn't cry, I just stopped feeling. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. The people I'd built my world around had already burned it to the ground. I sat in the living room, every light off except the one above the dining table. My phone was recording on the counter, hidden under a stack of papers. The clock ticked louder than my heartbeat. When the doorbell rang, I called out, "Come in, it's open." Liam stepped inside, grinning. "Man, you sound dead. Rough day?" "Something like that," I said, motioning for him to sit. He dropped onto the couch, loosening his tie. "Clara said you weren't feeling great." You good? I stared at him. She said that? Yeah, why? You two fight or something? I leaned back. No, I just needed to talk. He frowned slightly. Sure, what's up? I watched him carefully, every muscle in my face still. Do you love her? His laugh came too quickly. What? Do you love her? I repeated, this time quieter. He blinked, confused or pretending to be. Ethan, what are you talking about? Clara, I said. My fiancée. The woman I'm supposed to marry in 2 months. Do you love her? The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut through bone. His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. Ethan, Save it. My voice came out calm, but I felt my hands shaking. Don't insult me with excuses. His eyes darted to the floor. You weren't supposed to find out like this. I almost laughed. Oh? There was a better way to find out my best friend was sleeping with my fiancé? He winced. It wasn't like that. Then how was it? I snapped. Because from what I read, it looked like passion lies in hotel rooms. He stood pacing. We didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened? I cut him off. You don't trip and fall into someone's bed, Liam. He rubbed his face, shaking his head. Ethan, please. You don't understand. She was lonely. You were always working. I froze. So it's my fault? No. I'm saying, enough, I said, voice trembling. She'll be here any minute. You can both explain together. He looked panicked. You told her? No, I said quietly. I invited her. Moments later, the door opened. Clara walked in, smiling. Hey, She stopped cold when she saw him. Liam? I stood slowly. Perfect timing. She blinked between us. What's going on? I picked up the phone from the table, unlocked the screen, and held it up. This. Her face drained of color as the text filled the air. Liam closed his eyes. Clara's hand covered her mouth. Ethan, she whispered. Please let me explain. Explain what? I said quietly. How you kissed him after my birthday toast. How you met him behind my back. Or how you both turned me into a joke. Tears slid down her face. It was a mistake. No, I said. It was a choice. Liam stepped forward. We never meant to hurt you. I stared at both of them, my voice barely a whisper. You could have had everything. They looked up. Silent, broken. Now, I said, turning for the door, you'll have nothing. The cold air hit my face as I walked out, and I never looked back. The weeks after that night blurred together. I barely slept. Coffee replaced meals. Silence replaced laughter. When my phone rang one morning, I didn't even check the caller ID. Yeah? Ethan, it's Mark, my partner at the company said. His tone was hesitant.
We had a board meeting today. I rubbed my eyes.
Without me? Liam called for an emergency vote. Said you've been unstable. Investors are nervous. I laughed bitterly. Unstable? I caught my fiancé and my best friend lying to me, Mark. Excuse me for being human. I know, man, but he's been saying you're not fit to handle operations right now. They voted him interim CEO. My chest went cold. He pushed me out. Mark sighed. It's temporary, but look, Ethan, lay low for a while. Let this calm down. Lay low? I whispered. He stole everything. My company, my fiancé, my life, and I should lay low. Please don't do anything stupid, he said quietly. They're saying you're losing it. Don't prove them right, I hung up. The room felt smaller than before. By the next day, the rumors had already spread. I got texts from friends, half of them curious, the other half pretending to care. One read, heard you had a breakdown. Another, Clara and Liam are saying you got violent. I called Clara, desperate for answers. She didn't pick up. I called again and again. Finally, she texted back, please don't contact me. It's better for both of us. Better for her, maybe. She had him, the company, and the sympathy. I had nothing. My apartment turned into a graveyard of takeout boxes and whiskey bottles. Every night, I replayed everything. Her laugh, his words, their betrayal, until it hurt less to remember and more to breathe. Guess you really did lose it, huh? I muttered to myself one night, staring at my reflection in the window. My voice sounded like a stranger's, but pain, I realized, doesn't just destroy, it refines. I opened my laptop, scrolled through old company files, and stared at the numbers Liam thought I'd forgotten. Offshore accounts, hidden contracts, shady deals. Got you, I whispered. I began writing notes, screenshots, everything that could burn him down. Each click steadied my hands. Each file reminded me who I used to be. They'd taken my peace, but they forgot one thing. I built the empire they were standing on. I knew every crack in its foundation. This wasn't my ending. It was the beginning of theirs. Ethan Cross, the man across the desk said, reading my resume like it was a crime report. Hart and Cross Innovations, huh? Impressive fall from grace, I gave a half smile. Then you already know the headlines. I know the headlines, Mr. Raymond Steele said, leaning back in his chair. I don't know the man behind them. Tell me why I should hire you. Because I've already lost everything, I replied quietly. And when a man's got nothing to lose, he's unstoppable. He studied me for a long moment. Then slowly a grin spread across his face. Good answer. That was how it started, my second life. Raymond wasn't a gentle mentor. He was sharp, relentless, the kind of man who turned pressure into diamonds. Don't chase revenge, he told me once over black coffee. Shape it. Sharpen it. Don't waste it. Make it profitable. Those words hit me harder than I expected. I poured myself into work, numbers, strategy, late nights. The more exhausted I became, the clearer I thought. My pain wasn't a wound anymore, it was fuel. Your presentation blew the board away, Raymond said after my first big pitch. Not bad for a man rebuilding from ashes. Guess I've learned how to rise, I replied. He laughed. Careful, Cross, rise too high and the air gets thin. I've already been buried, I said. I'll take thin air over dirt any day. Months passed. Deals closed. Projects grew. People began whispering my name again, but this time without pity. One evening, Raymond joined me in the empty office. You've got that look again, he said. What look? The one that says you're not here for success? You're here for redemption. I leaned back in my chair. Redemption's too clean a word. Let's just call it correction, he chuckled, lighting a cigar. You're dangerous when you're calm. I like that. Just remember, revenge is a dish best served with dividends, I smirked. I'm planning a feast. Under his guidance, I grew faster than anyone expected. The same boardrooms that once whispered about my downfall were now calling me for partnerships. But every night, when the office lights dimmed, I saw their faces again. Clara's trembling lies. Liam's guilty silence, their betrayal didn't haunt me anymore. It motivated me. Ethan, Raymond said one late night as we reviewed contracts, tell me something, what's the end game? To own what I built, I said simply. To take back everything they thought they stole. He nodded slowly. Then keep playing the long game. Power moves quietly before it strikes. I looked at him, my reflection in the glass behind him almost unrecognizable. Then I guess I've learned to move in silence, he smiled. Good, because the world remembers noise, but it fears silence. And in that silence, I found purpose again. Sharp, cold, and unstoppable. 3 years. That's how long it took to rebuild myself from ashes to steel. The elevator doors opened with a familiar chime, and I stepped into the top floor of Hart and Cross Innovations, the company I once built, bled for, and lost. Now it was mine again. The receptionist froze. Sir, do you have an appointment? I smiled. Tell Mr. Hart that Ethan Cross would like a word. Her eyes widened. Ethan Cross? Still me, I said calmly. The boardroom was already full when I entered. I could feel the shift in air, the kind that comes when ghosts walk into a room full of the living. Liam sat at the head of the table, dark circles under his eyes, his once confident posture slumped. Morning? I said, my voice echoing in the silence. Liam blinked twice. Ethan? Hello, partner, I replied, sliding a folder onto the table. Or should I say former partner? He stood abruptly. What's this supposed to mean? It means, I said, opening the folder, that as of this morning, Cross Holdings owns 51% of Hart and Cross Innovations. Congratulations, Liam. You work for me now. Gasps rippled through the room. A few board members exchanged glances. Clara entered seconds later, late as always. Her voice trembled. Ethan? I turned slowly. Clara, long time no see. She looked pale, smaller somehow. What are you doing here? Business, I said simply. You remember how I always said success was the best revenge? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Liam slammed his hand on the table. You can't just waltz in here and— I didn't waltz, I interrupted. I bought. Big difference. The room went dead quiet again. Clara stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. You planned this? Every sleepless night, every deal, every choice, I said softly. It all led back here, Liam scoffed. You're still bitter after all this time? Bitter? I repeated, almost amused. No, Liam, I'm better. There's a difference. One of the board members cleared his throat nervously. Mr. Cross, does this mean there'll be changes? Oh, absolutely, I said, eyes fixed on Liam. Starting today, the leadership structure will be reviewed. Performance will decide positions. No favoritism. No shortcuts. No sleeping your way to promotions. Clara flinched, her eyes filling with tears. Ethan, please, she whispered. You've made your point. I looked at her for a long second. No, Clara, I've made my return. Liam tried to speak again, but I held up a hand. You ran this company into the ground. I'll rebuild it. And maybe this time, I'll do it with people who know the meaning of loyalty. I stood, buttoning my jacket. Meeting adjourned. As I walked out, I heard the whispers, shock, awe, fear. 3 years ago, they buried me. Today, I came back to collect what they owed. Liam stormed into my office before noon, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. You can't do this to me, Ethan, he shouted. I didn't look up from my laptop. I already did. You think buying shares gives you the right to humiliate me? I think Betrayal did that, I said calmly. Buying the company just made it legal. He paced, his fists clenching and unclenching. You're twisting everything. You were never the victim here, I laughed quietly. You slept with my fiancé and stole my company. If I'm not the victim, what does that make you, a saint? His face turned red. You don't understand what happened between Clara and me. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said, finally meeting his eyes. You wanted what was mine. Now I want what's yours. Seems fair, he stepped closer. You're destroying everything we built. No, I said, standing. I'm saving it from you. The tension in the air was thick, choking. The years of fake friendship, shared dreams, late-night strategy sessions, all of it burned to ashes in that single stare. You're not the man I knew, he muttered. No, I said softly. That man died the day you betrayed him. The door opened behind him. Clara stood there, pale and hesitant. Ethan, please, can we talk? I turned my gaze back to Liam. Meeting over. You can leave. He glared at me, then brushed past her. The silence he left behind was heavier than his shouting. Clara stepped in slowly. You don't have to treat him like that, she said. Like what? I asked, keeping my voice even. Like an employee. That's what he is, her eyes filled with tears. You've changed. Good, I said. Because the old me would have forgiven you. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan. Then why did you? She looked away. It wasn't supposed to happen. Liam, he understood me when you didn't. I laughed bitterly. He understood your lies, you mean? She flinched. I still care about you. Don't, I said coldly. You could have been my wife, Clara. Now, you're just another name on payroll. Her lips parted like she wanted to protest, but no sound came out. I walked around the desk, my tone quiet but sharp. You both taught me something important. That love without loyalty is just manipulation with pretty words. She wiped her tears. Ethan, please, don't become what you hate. I stopped by the door. I already became what I needed to survive, she whispered. Is there any part of you that still remembers us? I turned to face her one last time. Every night, I said. That's how I know what to never trust again. When she left, the silence returned, clean, cold, victorious. For the first time, I didn't feel pain when I thought of them. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes and peace in mine. It started quietly, like the faint sound of glass cracking before it shatters. Ethan, my assistant said one morning, handing me a file. You should see this. Inside were numbers, missing funds, mismatched invoices, fake vendor names. Liam's signature was on all of them. I leaned back in my chair. So the golden boy finally slipped. She hesitated. Do you want me to report it to the board? I smiled faintly. No, let him dig his own grave. Just make sure the cameras are rolling when he does. By the end of the week, whispers filled the office halls. Did you hear about the budget discrepancies? Someone said it goes all the way to the CEO. I thought Liam was untouchable. He wasn't. During a tense board meeting, I watched the directors exchange glances. One finally turned to him. "Mr. Hart, we've reviewed the financial report. Would you like to explain the missing 600,000? Liam froze. That's a misunderstanding. Then clear it up, I said calmly. He shot me a glare. You think this is funny? Not funny, I said. Predictable. The room fell into silence. He stammered through excuses, but no one bought them. The once confident CEO now looked like a kid caught stealing candy. When the meeting ended, Clara followed me out. Ethan, please. You're behind this, aren't you? I didn't stop walking. Behind what? The truth? She grabbed my arm. He's losing everything. You could stop this, I turned to her. Could I? Why should I? Because you're not him, she said, voice trembling. You're not cruel, I met her eyes. Cruel? No, precise, she shook her head. You're enjoying this, I sighed. No, Clara, that's the sad part, I'm not. The next week, the HR department exploded with rumors. Clara's name surfaced in the investigation. Employees whispered about favoritism, misuse of authority, things I didn't start but didn't bother stopping. I overheard 2 interns in the elevator. Isn't Clara the CEO's girlfriend? Ex, apparently. Word is he's been avoiding her. Guess karma works fast. They went silent when they noticed me. I smiled politely. Don't worry. Gossip's part of the job. At night, I sat alone in my office, city lights flickering through the glass. It should have felt like victory. Liam was collapsing under his own corruption. Clara was trapped in the mess she helped create. Every lie they told was eating them alive, and me? I'd won, without even lifting a hand, but the quiet felt heavier than the chaos. Raymond's voice echoed in my head. Don't waste revenge. Make it profitable, but profit didn't fill the silence. I stared at the skyline and whispered to myself, why doesn't it feel good? Maybe because revenge doesn't heal, it only empties you slower. Still, I stayed late that night, watching the lights fade one by one. Their empire was crumbling beautifully, and I was the only one left standing. The clock ticked past midnight when I heard the soft knock on my office door. Come in, I said, not looking up. The door creaked open, and a familiar voice whispered, Ethan. I froze. When I finally looked up, Clara stood there, eyes red, shoulders trembling, her confidence gone. What are you doing here? I asked. I didn't know where else to go. I leaned back, folding my arms. You shouldn't be here. People might think you're trying to save your job. Her lips quivered. That's not why I came. Then why? She stepped closer. To say I'm sorry, I laughed softly. Sorry, that's all? She swallowed hard. Ethan, I never wanted to hurt you. It was a mistake. I stared at her for a long second. A mistake is spilling coffee, Clara. What you did was a choice. Her eyes filled instantly. You think I planned all of this? Liam promised things he made me believe. I cut her off. He made you believe I wasn't enough, right? That's the part that stings. I was stupid, she whispered, blinded by what I thought love looked like. Love? I said quietly. You stood beside a man who stole from me, lied to his own people, and still had the nerve to smile in public. That's not love, Clara, that's survival. Tears slipped down her face. I lost everything. My reputation, my career, even him. He won't return my calls, I sighed. You always needed someone to save you. Maybe now you'll finally learn to stand on your own. She reached for me, but I pulled back. Please, she whispered. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't rewind time, I said. It just fills the silence after the damage is done. Her voice broke. You still hate me, don't you? I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time I didn't feel hate. Just exhaustion. No, hate takes energy. I'm done spending any on you. She wiped her cheeks, nodding. Then I'll go. When she turned to leave, I didn't stop her. The door clicked shut, and the room fell quiet again. The city lights reflected off my desk, soft and distant. I stared at them for a while, waiting to feel something, anger, satisfaction, anything, but there was nothing left. Revenge hadn't filled the emptiness. It had carved it deeper. I leaned back in my chair and whispered to the silence. You were right, Clara. You didn't ruin me. I did that myself, and for the first time, I realized the war was over. and there was no victory in what was left behind. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. "Mr. Hart," my assistant said, rushing in. "The board just confirmed Liam's been arrested." I didn't even flinch. For what exactly? Fraud, embezzlement, falsified reports. It's all over the audit files. I nodded slowly. "Let the lawyers handle it. And tell PR to keep the statement clean," she hesitated. Should I mention Clara's resignation? I looked at the stack of papers on my desk. No need. Some exits speak for themselves. When she left, the room felt heavier than usual. Silence has a way of making victory sound hollow. Later that day, I stood before the board. Their faces were polite masks, praising, approving, pretending this was just business. "Congratulations, Ethan," one of them said. "The company's in your hands now," I forced a smile. "Thank you. I'll make sure it stays standing." A few reporters waited outside when I left. Cameras flashed, questions flew. "Mr. Hart, how does it feel to take control after such a scandal?" "It feels like a responsibility," I answered. "We're not just rebuilding a company, we're rebuilding integrity." They loved that line. I could see it in their satisfied nods, the way pens danced across notepads. But behind the practiced calm, my chest felt tight. When I got back to my office, Clara was waiting by the window. "You shouldn't be here," I said quietly. "I came to say goodbye," she whispered. "They told me Liam's in custody." "I know." She turned to face me, eyes distant. "It's strange. I thought I'd feel relief, but it just feels empty." I looked at her, then back at the city skyline. "That's the thing about revenge, Clara. It doesn't fill the void, it just changes its shape." "You got everything you wanted," she said softly. "Why do you sound like you lost?" I didn't answer right away. Because I did. Somewhere along the line, I stopped fighting for peace and started fighting for pain. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Maybe now you can stop fighting altogether." "Maybe," I said. "But I'm not sure I remember how." She gave a sad smile. "Goodbye, Ethan." When she walked out, I didn't watch her go. I just stood there staring at my reflection in the glass. The world now saw me as the man who saved a dying empire. But I knew better. I wasn't saved. I was just less broken. And somehow, that felt worse than being shattered. The cafe hadn't changed. Same soft music, same chipped tables, same smell of roasted beans and rain. I walked in quietly, my reflection flashing across the glass door before it closed behind me. The barista looked up. "Morning, sir." "Usual order?" I hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Yeah, black coffee. No sugar." When she walked away, I glanced at the corner table, the one where it all began. Clara's laughter. Liam's plans. My naive dreams. All ghosts now. A voice broke my thoughts. "Haven't seen you around in years." It was the owner, Mr. Patel. "Been busy saving empires," I said, forcing a small grin. He chuckled. "You look tired for a man who's winning." "Maybe winning's just another form of losing," I muttered. He nodded like he understood. "The coffee's on the house today." When he left, I sat in silence, staring at the empty chair across from me. For a moment, I imagined Clara sitting there, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup, eyes bright with lies I mistook for love. "Why'd you do it?" I whispered to the ghost that wasn't there. Was I that easy to replace? No answer. Just the low hum of conversation around me. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Doesn't matter anymore," the door chimed. For a second, my pulse jumped, but it wasn't her. Just another stranger chasing caffeine and comfort. I picked up my cup, feeling the warmth through the ceramic. It grounded me, pulled me back to the present. Liam was gone. Clara had disappeared into silence. The company, my company, was thriving. Everything I'd once wanted was finally mine, and yet, sitting there, I felt the hollowness again, quieter this time, but still there. Maybe that's what closure really is, not the absence of pain, but the acceptance that some wounds never close. They just stop bleeding. I finished my coffee and looked around one last time. The world outside moved on, unaware that I'd finally stopped fighting ghosts. As I stood to leave, I whispered under my breath, "Some people lose their souls chasing success." A faint smile touched my lips. I just lost mine getting it back, and with that I walked out, lighter, not healed, but free enough to keep walking. "I'm selling it," I said, sliding the file across Raymond's desk. He raised an eyebrow. Heart and cross? After everything you've done to save it? After everything it cost me, I replied. It's time. He leaned back, studying me. You're sure this isn't just guilt talking? No, I said. It's clarity. For the first time in a long time. Raymond chuckled softly. You sound like a man who's finally slept. Maybe I have, I said, smiling faintly. Or maybe I'm just tired of winning battles that never end. He nodded slowly, his voice quieter now. So what's next? Something new, I said, under my own name. Cross Industries, his brows lifted. You're naming it after yourself? Yeah, because this time it's not about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving myself right. Raymond pushed back his chair and stood, walking to the window. You know, he said, most men chase revenge their whole lives. You actually caught it and decided to let it go. I laughed softly. Guess I finally realized revenge isn't a destination. It's a detour. He turned, smiling. Then congratulations, Ethan. You're finally free. Those words lingered as I looked out the window, the city stretching endlessly beneath us. Lights blinking like scattered stars. For years, I'd looked at the skyline and seen ghosts. Every success was haunted by betrayal. Every victory a reminder of what I'd lost. But now it looked different. Alive. Possible. I whispered to myself, freedom doesn't mean forgetting. It means forgiving yourself enough to move forward. Raymond tapped my shoulder. You've earned it, kid. Don't waste it. I won't, I said. Not this time, he smiled. Then go build something that matters. As I walked out of his office, I felt something unfamiliar. Lightness. No weight of revenge. No echoes of old pain, just peace. Outside, the night breeze brushed against my face, carrying the city's noise like music. Maybe this was what it meant to start over, not from nothing, but from everything I'd learned the hard way. I looked up at the lights one last time and said quietly, this time, I'll rise for me.